I'm telling all migrants, go and take their houses, bro. Go and take their fucking houses, take their cars, take everything they own. Who do they think they are displacing people in this world? This is not your world. The world is not Ireland. Alright? The world is not all about Irish. This is not your world. Migrants go and take their houses and take their cars and take their women and take their jobs. The cheek of them displacing people and putting people on the street, acting like you care about homeless people. These little racist bastards. That's all you are. Nothing more than little dopey racist cunts on the side of the street. You are nothing in society. You will never be anything in society. That's why you are mad that a migrant can come here within 4 months. You can have way more than you because you're a loser and you have nothing to your name. You're a little dopey dole merchant that sits on the dole every day and waits for a free house on the council list for 20 years because you're useless and you never leave this country because you're a dope and you don't know anything else. And when you go on holiday, you go to a resort in Spain and fill yourself with drinks because you know nothing and you can't mix with the normal people of those countries. So you have to stay in hotel resorts and then make up rumors. Oh, we can't go outside because it's dangerous for Irish people. Shut the up, you racist little piece of shit. I hope migrants take your houses, your wives, and your cars, you little pieces of shit. Displacing people like you own the world. This is not.
I mean, I can't even comprehend going into somebody's country and having that level of entitlement. He does not deserve the Irish people's kindness and generosity, which the Irish are renowned for. And yeah, no, I don't even know what to say. Absolutely crazy. In the last week as well, a Gardaí, which is like a police officer in Ireland, got stabbed in Dublin city centre by a migrant. And, you know, it's this kind of thing just really frustrates me. The media, they put out that he was an Irish-born citizen, the man who stabbed the police officer. And from the initial footage, you couldn't really tell. But then new footage came out from somebody else's perspective. And in that footage, you hear him shouting Allahu Akbar as he stabs the police officer in the back.
Trae un cuchillo. Haz para atrás. Bate.
And I can't find the link here right now, but his name, I'll put it up in the video. His name was like some very Middle Eastern name. You know, it was so misleading of the media to portray it like he was an Irish citizen, you know. The mainstream media has been staying pretty quiet on the protests that have been erupting across the UK this week and across Europe in recent times. All of this is over the mass, uncontrolled migration that's been taking place. They're quick to label people as far right or radicalists, but I think we've reached the point now where it's becoming more and more difficult to dismiss. And they're not really diving into the real frustrations that people have. There's no denying that some migrants have committed some heartbreaking crimes that could have been avoided. This person here calls racism. They say, all I see are out and out racists, many of the lowest forms of society looking for any excuse to riot and cause mayhem, and many more half-wits that simply follow. Wonder who they will turn on next. It's a little bit of a shallow analysis of it. You know, even in this week alone, we've been looking at, on Sunday the 3rd of August, the charging of 2 Afghan asylum seekers in the UK for the rape and kidnapping of a 12-year-old. Then you had on the same day in Southampton a stabbing where a migrant was arrested for attempting murder after attacking 3 people. On August 2nd and 3rd, that's Saturday, Sunday, an attempted kidnapping of a 10-year-old in Winslow by a Sudanese asylum seeker. This is all in the same day. And since the beginning of the year, the UK has had 25,000 channel crossings. This week, the British leaders, under pressure from the public, celebrated deporting 50 migrants in one day. And people were still not happy because there was one day where 900 migrants came in. And it's just not enough. It's not sustainable, basically. And things are rough in the UK at the moment because, of course, we've got also the new internet restrictions under the Online Safety Act kicking in. You've got police units monitoring anti-migrant posts online, and people are frightened. They're frightened of censorship. They're frightened of surveillance. And then, of course, we're seeing video footage online and reports of a two-tier justice system where British citizens are being punished inordinately for speaking out, whilst migrants are getting off easy.
So you have a problem with my words?
Yes.
Because a filthy migrant just spat on me?
Yeah,
and you've got the issue with me?
We have a duty to challenge that language, yeah, because we're police officers and it's...
Because he's filthy and he's migrant and he attacked me like the other one.
We're trying to help you report which is offensive, isn't it? We can't not challenge that language.
So it's not surprising that there are protests. This is outside of a hotel where illegal migrants are being housed. They're singing. Apparently the police have threatened to arrest them and they're just carrying on singing. I mean, look at them. They're completely unthreatening and they're citizens. They're English. They're British. They should be allowed to voice their opinions on how the country should be run. We are not far right, but we're not far wrong. Don't gamble with our lives. Stop the boats. It's crazy. I mean, think how this is going to go down in history. Like, women out on the streets begging their government to pay attention and to do something and to keep them safe, because the government hasn't given a damn about the consequences for women and children's safety. It's just crazy. This is another gathering of people this week. Hundreds of locals gather outside a police station in Mansfield, demanding protection for their children from illegal immigrants. I really think it's reached a boiling point. My only concern is, I think the politicians knew it would come to this. I believe that the leaders, for whatever reason, they want to create chaos. They want to create division. You know, I believe that they knew exactly what they were doing by just allowing this and facilitating this. Nigel Farage has been very outspoken this week about the migration problems.
You say migrants in hotels should be deported. Mm-hmm. Where should they be deported to if their country isn't safe or if another country won't accept them?
I'm sorry, I've had enough of this. If you come from Afghanistan, you go back to Afghanistan. End of. This idea we can't send people to certain countries, all the false claims that people make about their own personal lives. I'm sorry, we're done. We're done. We've had enough.
Honestly, people need to go to extra lengths to be heard because the media, they're fighting the media who's just going to be covering it up. I've heard statistics before. I don't know the exact percentage, but it's actually an extremely small percent of people that it actually takes to make massive, massive changes historically. So I really believe that this is reaching the point where enough people are upset and concerned that this could actually really have a big impact. The protests throughout the UK have spread to Scotland as well, and locals are protesting against illegal migrants being moved into local hotels. The UK spent $9 billion to secretly smuggle 40,000 Afghans into Britain. I mean, it's absolutely absurd. It's just a new form of occupation, modern day occupation. Locals are fighting back everywhere though. It's happening in Spain, Portugal, Ireland, England. This week, quite a striking moment where a bunch of illegal migrants arrived by boat onto a Spanish beach and the locals just went for it, grabbed them, got the police involved, and the police detained the arrivals. And honestly, this is what has to happen. Locals have to take it into their own hands because it's just not being regulated at all. The Irish have been fighting back with protests as well, with rallies, you know. They haven't been quiet about this. Recently, this building, which was going to be used to shelter migrants, was set on fire. This person says, "Looks like climate change to me." They said, strange that the Irish government is bringing in so many people from where heating isn't required to where it is, which would cause more climate change. Doesn't really add up. Somebody else says it's so obviously climate change. So I mean, this is Ireland, and I don't know, like it's obviously not the country that I grew up in as a child. Obviously this is some kind of African festival where they've all come together to celebrate, but it's just so many people. The Irish culture is so beautiful, and it's such a small country. Have a look at this map. This is Ireland inside Africa, right? And like the African migrants are flooding into Ireland. And it's like, how much can Ireland take? Almost 1 in 4 of the population are now foreigners in Ireland. It's a very, very small country to be taking in mass numbers of migrants, you know? And then you have situations like this, where this is a group of Afghanis and a group of Pakistanis who are fighting with each other in a small town in Ireland. The tension that's being brought with multiculturalism and the tension between the cultures is not just between the Irish and the immigrants, it's between the different immigrants that are coming in. You know, there's a vast array of them. So, I mean, it's just a recipe for chaos if it's not managed properly, you know. But like I said, I genuinely believe that they know. The EU knows that this is going to create chaos. The politicians who agree to it know that it's going to create chaos. And then you have the cultural differences and how that creates tension. Like this is Italy, and this is a water fountain where children drink from, and this migrant is just washing his feet. And this person says, if we comment, they arrest us. Meanwhile, in England, new locals go to the park to catch their dinner. Who remembers when there used to be strict laws around fishing and having the correct licenses to do so? Yes. Apparently that doesn't matter anymore. There's a 2-tier justice system taking place right now. This is America. A 42-year-old Somali man abducted and raped a 12-year-old who was playing in her backyard in Minnesota. Honestly, it makes my heart just break. This is the Islamic Center that wrote a letter in support of him, stating that he's a family man who had to overcome the challenges of a new culture. And unfortunately, the citizens now have to overcome the challenges of that new culture as well. And it's pretty darn traumatic. The government makes it almost impossible for Irish Americans to get citizenship, but Mick O'Keefe says they hand it out like confetti to foreigners. This week as well was a pretty crazy week for Ireland, because the Irish courts ruled that Ireland has no obligation to provide housing to asylum seekers. But very quickly the balloon burst, because EU courts have ruled that Ireland does have an obligation to provide housing to asylum seekers. So once again, the EU is just trolloping over Ireland and its own independent choices and sovereignty. Ireland is not a sovereign country anymore. It has no free will anymore. No country in the EU has its own free will anymore. The EU decides and they must obey. Actually, Elon Musk posted this week that European countries should leave the EU, and I fully agree with that. The EU, when it first started out, was just supposed to be about trade. It was supposed to be about free trade between the European countries. And it's gotten completely out of hand since then. And it really just needs to go back to being about trade and leave it there. Michael O'Keefe says again, there's only one solution here. Ireland must leave the EU and regain our sovereignty. Ireexit. It's an absolutely crazy time in Europe and the UK at the moment. One thing I will say is I think it's important to remember that when you're seeing videos on social media, you're seeing like little snippets, little moments of a much bigger overall picture. So I don't want you to leave this video with a dramatized idea of the migration problem in Europe and the UK. Like, I've seen someone today who was saying, oh, when you can't even go to a train station without getting raped in Europe. And that is not true. That's not true. I have many friends like throughout Europe and the UK and London who literally use the train stations in the capital cities like every day to go to work, and it's just they're fine. I think it's important to have nuance when we talk about these things, to, you know, be able to say, yes, migration is a problem, but no, it's not, you know, a complete hell on earth all the time. But obviously, it's clear that it's going down a path that's just not sustainable and that a lot of people are unhappy about. And for any people in the UK or in Europe who are who just see this as like racist rhetoric, I would just say, you know, your fellow citizens, many of your fellow citizens feel differently, and their opinion matters just as much as your one does. So listen to them, talk with them like they are human beings on your level, and maybe you'll find out something that you didn't know. So yeah, just converse with each other and be open-minded and explore, because this is not something that's going away anytime soon. But yes, I believe this has reached a boiling point now. I actually personally think that the only way out of this is for European countries to leave the EU and go back to a trade agreement instead, because there are some evils working in the European Union. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about that today because it's not being reported in the news properly. None of this stuff gets reported in the news. The general public doesn't hear about it through the mainstream media, and I just wanted to try to do my part to kind of spread a little bit of awareness about something that's kind of being swept under the rug at the moment. So I do hope that you walk away from this realizing that there are more and more people fighting back. There is a fighting spirit in citizens across the West that is not being put out easily. So I hope you don't leave this video feeling overwhelmed or afraid. I hope instead that you feel empowered and you realize that progress is being made slowly but surely, and you know, citizens are fighters. So yeah, I will leave you with that. Thank you so much, and I'll see you guys next time.